Oh, my online friend Brian Cronin recently posted that Danielle Fishel was told Girl Meets World would not be a reboot of Boy Meets World. I contend that she was told correctly, and that Girl Meets World is a sequel to Boy Meets World. Some people also consider it to be a spin-off. Girl Meets World centers on Riley Matthews, played by Rowan Blanchard, who is Corey and Topanga's 12-year-old daughter. Corey Matthews, played by Ben Savage, was the main character of Boy Meets World. Danielle Fishel, sorry, played Topanga in both series and was Corey's romantic interest in the original, wife in the sequel. Girl Meets World premiered on the Disney Channel in 2014, 14 years after Boy Meets World concluded. Currently, Hollywood seems to be using terms such as spin-off, sequel, reboot, and remake interchangeably, which is unfortunate and can cause confusion as all four of these are separate and distinct concepts. One of the biggest examples of a spin-off comes from the show Happy Days. This show ran for 11 seasons and spawned 7 different spin-off programs, 3 of which were animated. Laverne and Shirley is arguably the most popular spin-off, but an argument could also be made for Mork and Mindy having that honor. There were 2 additional spin-offs that didn't make it past the pilot episode, and a sequel in 1992 that also wasn't picked up. So that's 10 different series that could have come from this one. Sequels, on the other hand, mostly happen in movies. These go all the way back to the early serials, before television was even a thing. I guess one easy to recognize set of sequels for the modern viewer would be the original Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, and Son of Frankenstein. A remake, on the other hand, is when a movie is remade using modern actors and modern effects to tell the same story. I really liked when, for a little while, companies were selling double feature packets that held both the original and the remake in one set. There's a group of people who think that a remake is never as good as the original. I don't agree with this. Anything can be improved, but I do recognize that oftentimes it isn't. Magnificent Seven, 1960 Western that was remade in 2016. The 2016 version does add to the story, but I think that addition detracts from the overall tone. Although it does mostly tell the same story as the original, which is why it's a remake. A reboot, on the other hand, is restarting a story and changing it along the way into something completely new. Compare Batman with Michael Keaton to Batman Begins with Christian Bale. Both have a young Bruce Wayne witnessing his parents' murder, but from there the stories diverge. Keaton's Batman never encounters Ra's al Ghul or Scarecrow. Bale's Batman will have to wait a whole movie to meet Joker or Two-Face. And everything else is new and different as well. The Amazing Spider-Man is a reboot of Spider-Man, and the MCU's character is also different from both of those, as seen in the movie No Way Home. Technically, the entire MCU is a reboot of Marvel Comics in general. Some beats are the same, but the stories are significantly different. The details matter and are changed for honestly a multitude of reasons. And this brings up another term in cinema, which is the adaptation. True Grit, both the original and the remake, are adaptations of the novel by Charles Portis. Many movies are either adapted from or inspired by novels. Fun fact, the reason all movies, including true story movies, have the disclaimer, this is a work of fiction. Any similarity to actual persons, living or dead, or actual events is purely coincidental, is because of one movie. I don't remember which one. I wish I did, so I could call them out. But one movie which told the story of a person's life, but that person objected to one of the facts presented and had in fact been in a legal dispute with his biographer about including that fact in a book that was written about him. The film studios sort of won the case by redirecting blame to the biographer by saying, no, we got that information from him. He's the guy you need to be suing. But the long-term solution was to just make it clear that anything in any movie may or may not accurately reflect what happened, just in case a source was incorrect about a fact. Uh, I did go through a Stephen King phase back in the 90s and was reading the books before seeing any of the movies. I remember, after reading Carrie, wondering how the book could possibly be adapted to a movie. Again, adaptation being recreating the same story in a different format. Uh, again, a reboot is a different story using similar characters. So, for example, the story told in the movie Thor doesn't happen in the comics, so far as I'm aware, but it tells a story of this character that gets us to know him and sets him up for interaction with the rest of the MCU. Iron Man, similar. He is similar enough to his comic book origins from 1963 in his 2008 movie, but his battle with Ironmonger takes place in Iron Man issue 200 in 1985. So over 20 years later. Also, in the comics, Obadiah Stane was his business rival and peer, not his mentor. So again, changes that make this more of a reboot than an adaptation. This is a new story, different from the one that's already been told in the comics. Just like the movie Frankenstein is similar but different to the novel Frankenstein. There's actually a whole Universal Frankenstein series of 7 movies released over 17 years that is very different from the story told in Mary Shelley's novel. Part of the reason to do this from the studio standpoint is to retain the intellectual property of what the studio has produced. Brewster's Millions, the novel, is in the public domain. So anyone can make a movie, or a comic book, or a game, or whatever based on it without having to secure licensing. But the most popular version of the story is indisputably the 1985 movie starring Richard Pryor and John Candy. If you want to include any of the specific recognizable bits from that movie in your movie, TV show, comic book, game, whatever, you have to get permission from Universal Pictures. Another reason to not just tell the same story is because honestly, that's a story already told. Anyone can tell somebody else's story. What new perspective is this version bringing? Why should I go see Denzel Washington and Chris Pratt when I can see Yul Brynner and Steve McQueen? What new things is the other movie going to tell or show? That's my stance on it anyway. What is your opinion on movie remakes, or really any of the types of TV show or movie I've mentioned? Do you have a favorite remake or reboot or adaptation that you would like for me to talk about in a future video? Leave a comment down below and let me know.